The morning sun was already getting hot when Maya finished her daily swim. She loved having the community pool to herself at 7 in the morning. It was quiet, peaceful, and the perfect way to start her day before heading to work. As the head of the pool committee, she had keys to everything and knew the schedule like the back of her hand. Maya was drying off near the pool chairs when she heard footsteps coming up the pathway. She looked up to see a woman she didn't recognize walking toward the pool gate. The woman had blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun and was wearing expensive-looking workout clothes. Behind her were two kids, maybe 8 and 10 years old, carrying colorful pool floats and looking excited. The woman reached the gate and tried to push it open. When it didn't budge, she rattled it harder. Maya could see the frustration building on her face even from across the pool deck. "Excuse me," Maya called out, walking over with her towel still in hand. "The pool's closed for maintenance right now. It'll reopen at 2 this afternoon." The woman turned around and Maya could immediately see the annoyance in her eyes. "What do you mean closed? I can see the pool right there." "It looks fine to me." Maya smiled politely. She'd dealt with this before. New residents sometimes didn't know all the rules yet. "I'm Maya. I'm on the pool committee. We have scheduled maintenance every Tuesday morning. The chemical levels need to be balanced and the cleaning crew comes at noon. It's all posted right there on the sign." She pointed to the large white sign next to the gate that clearly listed the pool hours and maintenance schedule. The woman barely glanced at the sign. "Look, I don't care about your maintenance. My kids want to swim and I pay HOA fees just like everyone else." "Open the gate." Maya felt her stomach tighten. This wasn't going the way she'd hoped. "I understand you're disappointed, but the pool really isn't safe to use right now. The chemicals were just added, and they need time to circulate properly. It's for everyone's safety." "Safety?" The woman's voice got louder. "It's just water. Stop making excuses and open this gate right now." The two kids behind her started looking uncomfortable. The younger one tugged on the woman's shirt. "Mom, maybe we can come back later." "No, Tyler, we're not coming back later. This lady is going to open the pool for us right now." The woman crossed her arms and stared at Maya like she was waiting for her to cave. Maya took a deep breath. She'd been doing this volunteer job for 3 years and had learned that staying calm was the best approach. "I'm sorry, but I can't do that. The maintenance schedule is set by the HOA board, and it's the same every week. The pool will be ready at 2 o'clock and you're welcome to come back then." "Are you kidding me right now?" The woman's face was starting to turn red. "Do you have any idea how much I pay to live here? Do you know who I am?" Maya shook her head. "I don't think we've met. Are you new to Sunset Gardens? I'm happy to explain all the pool rules and—" "I don't need you to explain anything to me," the woman interrupted. "I need you to do your job and open this pool. I have every right to be here." Maya noticed that the woman still hadn't actually said which unit she lived in. In a community of only 48 houses, Maya knew most of the residents at least by sight. She definitely hadn't seen this woman before. "Which house are you in?" Maya asked. "I like to know all our neighbors." The woman hesitated for just a second. "That's none of your business. I don't have to prove anything to you." "Well, actually, pool access is limited to residents and their guests," Maya explained patiently. "If you're visiting someone, they need to be with you to use the facilities." "I'm not visiting anyone. I live here." The woman was practically shouting now. Several other residents had come out onto their balconies to see what the commotion was about. Maya felt bad for the kids, who were now standing behind their mother looking embarrassed. "Okay, let's start over. I'm Maya Rodriguez from Unit 12. What's your name?" "My name is Karen and I live in Unit 31. And I demand that you open this pool immediately, or I'm calling the police." Maya knew for a fact that Unit 31 belonged to Mr. and Mrs. Chen, who were currently visiting their daughter in Seattle. They'd asked Maya to keep an eye on their place while they were gone. Either this woman was lying or something very strange was going on. "Karen, I think there might be some confusion. Unit 31 belongs to the Chens and they're out of town right now." Karen's face got even redder. "How dare you question me? I don't have to stand here and be interrogated by some power-hungry committee member. You're clearly on some kind of ego trip. I'm just trying to understand." "No, you're not. You're trying to make me jump through hoops for no reason. This is discrimination and I won't stand for it." Maya was completely taken aback. "Discrimination? Karen, I just want to make sure you have access to use the pool. If you're a resident, you should have received the maintenance schedule in your mailbox last week." "I don't check my mail every day like some people apparently do," Karen snapped. And I shouldn't have to. The pool should be open when I want to use it. The pool is open 60 hours a week, Maya said, trying to keep her voice level. It's only closed for 6 hours on Tuesday mornings for required maintenance. I don't care about your stupid schedule. My kids have been looking forward to swimming all week, and you're ruining their day for no good reason. Maya looked at the children again. They seemed more embarrassed than disappointed now. The older one, a girl, was trying to get her mother's attention. Mom, it's okay. We can go to the park instead. No, Bella, it's not okay. This woman thinks she can push us around, but she's about to learn she picked the wrong person to mess with. Karen pulled out her phone and started dialing. I'm calling the police right now. This is harassment and I'm not going to tolerate it. Maya couldn't believe what she was hearing. Karen, please don't call the police over a pool schedule. This is just a misunderstanding. Oh, it's definitely a misunderstanding, Karen said, holding the phone to her ear. You misunderstood who you were dealing with. I have connections in this town, and when I'm done, you'll be lucky if you're still living here. Maya felt a chill run down her spine, but not from fear. She'd been doing volunteer work for the HOA for years, following every rule to the letter. She had documentation for everything, including the maintenance schedule that had been approved by the board and distributed to all residents. Yes, I need to report a harassment situation, Karen said into her phone. A woman is preventing me from accessing community amenities that I pay for. She's being completely unreasonable and won't listen to reason. Maya stepped back and pulled out her own phone. If Karen wanted to involve the police, Maya wanted to make sure she had backup too. She quickly texted the HOA president and took a few photos of the maintenance schedule sign. They'll be here in 20 minutes, Karen announced, hanging up. And when they get here, you're going to wish you'd just opened the gate when I asked nicely. I was being nice, Maya said quietly. I explained the situation and offered alternatives. Nice? Karen laughed, but there was no humor in it. Nice would have been opening the pool for my children instead of hiding behind ridiculous rules. The next 20 minutes felt like hours. Karen paced back and forth in front of the gate, occasionally muttering under her breath about power-hungry busybodies and people who don't know their place. The kids sat on a nearby bench, looking miserable. Maya stayed by the pool, answering texts from other residents who had heard the commotion and wanted to know if everything was okay. She assured them it would be resolved soon, though she wasn't entirely sure how. When she heard the police sirens getting closer, Maya took a deep breath. She'd never been involved in anything like this before, but she knew she'd followed all the rules. She had paperwork, witnesses, and a clear conscience. Whatever Karen thought she was going to accomplish by calling the police, Maya was pretty sure it wasn't going to go the way Karen expected. The police car pulled into the parking lot, and Maya could see Karen straightening her clothes and putting on what looked like her most innocent expression. This was about to get very interesting. Officer Johnson stepped out of his patrol car and immediately noticed the tension in the air. He'd been a cop for 15 years and could sense when a simple call was about to become complicated. Two women stood on opposite sides of a pool gate, and neither looked particularly happy. The blonde woman rushed toward him with what appeared to be tears in her eyes. Behind her, two kids sat on a bench looking like they wanted to disappear. "Officer, thank goodness you're here," Karen said, her voice shaky with what sounded like barely controlled emotion. "This woman has been harassing me and my children for the past half hour. She's refusing to let us use the community pool that we pay for." Officer Johnson nodded and pulled out his notepad. "Let's start with your name and address, ma'am." "Karen Mitchell. And I live at 1247 Sunset Gardens Drive, Unit 31. The officer wrote it down and then looked over at Maya, who had walked closer but was maintaining a respectful distance. "And you are?" "Maya Rodriguez, Unit 12. I'm on the HOA pool committee." "Okay, so what seems to be the problem here?" Karen immediately launched into her story. "My children and I came to use the pool this morning, which is our right as residents. This woman told us we couldn't use it and has been making up excuses about maintenance. When I asked her to open the gate, she became very aggressive and started questioning whether I even live here." Officer Johnson looked at Maya. "Is that accurate?" Maya shook her head. "Not exactly. The pool is closed every Tuesday morning for maintenance. It's clearly posted, and all residents received notice last week. I explained this to Karen and offered that she could return it too when it reopens." "That's not true," Karen interrupted. "She never said anything about coming back. She just kept making excuses and being rude." The officer held up his hand. Let me see some identification from both of you. Maya immediately handed over her driver's license. Karen hesitated for a moment, then dug through her large purse. I think it's in here somewhere, she muttered, pulling out receipts, gum wrappers, and various items before finally producing a license. Officer Johnson examined both IDs. Maya's clearly showed her address as Unit 12 in Sunset Gardens. Karen's license showed an address across town. Ma'am, your license shows a different address than what you told me. Karen's face flushed. Oh, that's my old address. I haven't updated it yet since I moved. How long ago did you move? Just recently. A few weeks ago. Officer Johnson made notes. Do you have any documentation showing your residency here? Lease agreement, HOA paperwork, utility bills? Karen shifted uncomfortably. I don't carry that stuff around with me. Why would I need to prove where I live to use my own pool? Maya spoke up. Officer, I can show you the maintenance schedule that was distributed to all residents. She pulled out her phone and showed him a photo of the official HOA notice. The officer examined it. This clearly states Tuesday morning maintenance from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. What time did you arrive, Ms. Mitchell? Around 7:30, but that doesn't matter. Rules like this are just suggestions. When residents need to use facilities, exceptions should be made. Officer Johnson raised an eyebrow. Actually, ma'am, HOA rules are legally binding for residents. They're not suggestions. Karen's confidence seemed to waver slightly. Well, maybe you don't understand how this works. I've been dealing with HOA issues for years. This woman is clearly overstepping her authority. What authority do you have here, Ms. Rodriguez? Maya explained her role on the pool committee and her responsibilities for maintaining safety and schedules. She showed him her official committee credentials and the keys that had been entrusted to her by the HOA board. Officer, I need to mention something else, Maya said carefully. Ms. Mitchell claimed to live in Unit 31, but that unit belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Chen, who are currently out of town. I have their contact information if you'd like to verify. Karen's eyes flashed with anger. How dare you spy on your neighbors? This is exactly the kind of harassment I'm talking about. I'm not spying. The Chens asked me to keep an eye on their place while they're gone. It's normal neighbor courtesy. Officer Johnson looked at Karen. Can you explain the discrepancy about Unit 31? There's no discrepancy. Maybe this woman doesn't know her neighbors as well as she thinks she does. The officer decided to call the number Maya provided. After a brief conversation, he hung up and turned back to the group. I just spoke with Mrs. Chen. She confirmed that she and her husband are in Seattle visiting their daughter, and they did not rent or loan their unit to anyone. Karen's face went pale, but she quickly recovered. Well, maybe I got the unit number wrong. There are so many houses here, and like I said, I just moved in. Which unit do you actually live in then? Karen looked around frantically. I think it's Unit 15. Yes, 15. Maya felt her heart sink. Unit 15 belonged to her good friend Janet, who definitely hadn't mentioned any new roommates. Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some proof of residency, Officer Johnson said firmly. A lease, utility bill, something official. I told you I don't carry that around. Karen's voice was getting shrill again. This is ridiculous. I shouldn't have to prove anything to use a pool in my own neighborhood. If you're a resident, you should have access to documentation, the officer pointed out reasonably. Karen suddenly changed tactics. Look, maybe there's been a misunderstanding. My ex-boyfriend used to live here and he gave me the gate code. I've been coming here for months without any problems. Maya and Officer Johnson exchanged glances. This was a very different story from claiming to be a resident. So you're saying you don't actually live here? The officer asked. I practically live here. I'm here all the time. I know people here. But you don't pay HOA fees or have any legal right to use the facilities. Karen realized she'd backed herself into a corner. This is all a big misunderstanding. I was told I could use the pool whenever I wanted. Who told you that? My ex, Brad, he lived in I think it was Unit 23. Maya's memory clicked. Brad Patterson moved out 6 months ago. He broke up with his girlfriend pretty dramatically. Everyone heard the arguing. Officer Johnson was writing everything down. So you're admitting that you're not a resident and you've been using community facilities without authorization? It's not like that, Karen stammered. Brad said I could come any time. Brad doesn't live here anymore, and even when he did, he couldn't give unauthorized people permanent access to community amenities. Karen looked at her children. who were watching this conversation with growing embarrassment. The older girl, Bella, spoke up quietly. "Mom, can we just go home now?" "No, we can't just go home," Karen snapped. "This is all a big misunderstanding, and these people are treating us terribly." Officer Johnson closed his notepad. "Ma'am, I need you to understand that what you've described is trespassing. You've been using private community facilities without permission." "Trespassing?" Karen's voice went up an octave. "That's completely ridiculous. I've never hurt anyone or damaged anything. I just wanted to swim. Trespassing doesn't require damage or harm. It just requires being on private property without permission." Maya felt bad for the kids, but knew she had to speak up. "Officer, if she's been coming here for months, there might be security footage. The cameras record everyone who enters and exits." Karen's face went white. "Security cameras? All gated communities have them," Officer Johnson said. "Standard security measure." Karen started backing away. "This is insane. All I wanted was to take my kids swimming. Now you're treating me like some kind of criminal." "Ma'am, I need you to calm down. We can sort this out, but I need you to be honest about what's been happening." "I have been honest. Maybe I got confused about some details, but I'm not a criminal." The officer looked at the two kids who were clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. "Are these your children?" "Of course they're my children. Can I see some identification for them? School registration? Anything that shows they're in your custody?" Karen's face went through several expressions before settling on panic. They're my friend's kids. I'm babysitting them today." Officer Johnson and Maya both stared at her. This story kept changing every few minutes. "So you brought someone else's children to illegally access private property?" "It's not illegal. And they wanted to swim. Their mom said it was fine." "Does their mother know you brought them here?" Karen didn't answer, which was answer enough. Officer Johnson radioed for backup and turned to Maya. "I'm going to need to see those security recordings you mentioned." As they walked toward the community office, Karen called after them. "This is all going to be cleared up. You'll see. I have every right to be here." But her voice sounded less confident than before, and Maya noticed that Karen was already reaching for her phone, probably trying to figure out how to get out of the mess she'd created. The morning had started so peacefully, and now Maya found herself in the middle of what was clearly a much bigger problem than she'd initially realized. The HOA office was a small building near the main entrance that housed security monitors, filing cabinets, and a desk where Maya did most of her committee work. Officer Johnson followed her inside while Karen waited outside with the children, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. "The security system records everything," Maya explained, pulling up the computer system. "We installed it 2 years ago after some vandalism issues." Officer Johnson watched as Maya navigated through the digital files. "How far back do these recordings go?" 3 months. After that, they get archived." Maya's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "Let me check the entry logs first. Every time someone uses the gate code, it records the time and which code was used." The screen showed a detailed log of entries and exits. Maya scrolled through the past few weeks, and Officer Johnson could see entries for Karen Mitchell almost daily. "Look at this." Maya pointed to the screen. "She's been coming here nearly every day for the past month. Sometimes twice a day." Officer Johnson studied the pattern, always using the same code. "Whose code is that?" Maya checked the system. "Code 4387, that was assigned to Brad Patterson in Unit 23. The ex-boyfriend she mentioned." "Right, but look at this." Maya clicked on another screen. "Brad's code was supposed to be deactivated when he moved out 6 months ago. But it wasn't?" Maya looked embarrassed. That's a problem we've been having. Sometimes when people move out quickly, the code changes don't get processed right away. The property management company is supposed to handle it, but they've been slow lately." Officer Johnson made notes. "So she's been using an inactive code that should have been disabled." "Exactly. And look at the time she's been coming." Maya scrolled through more entries. "Early mornings, late evenings, weekends. She's clearly been trying to avoid peak hours when more residents would be around." The officer studied the patterns. "Smart if you're trying not to get caught." Maya clicked on another file. "Here's today's footage." The screen showed Karen approaching the gate that morning, entering the code and walking toward the pool with the 2 children. "Can you show me footage from previous days?" Maya pulled up several other dates. Each time the video showed Karen entering alone or with different combinations of people. Sometimes it was the same 2 children, sometimes different kids, and occasionally adults. She's been bringing different people each time, Officer Johnson observed. That's against the rules, too. Residents can bring guests, but guests have to be accompanied by the resident at all times. Officer Johnson was taking detailed notes. This is looking more and more like a pattern of unauthorized access. Maya hesitated, then said, "Officer, there's something else. Can I show you the community Facebook page?" She pulled up the page on another tab. Look at this post from 3 weeks ago. The post was from Karen's account. "Perfect day at my neighborhood pool. Love having access to such great amenities. Blessed pool day community." She's posting about it on social media, Officer Johnson said, shaking his head. That's pretty bold for someone who doesn't live here. Maya scrolled through more posts. Here's another one. And another. She's been posting pool pictures regularly, always talking about her neighborhood and her community. Does she tag the location? Yes, she's tagged Sunset Gardens in several posts. Maya clicked on the location tag. And look at this. Other people have been commenting, asking how they can get access. Officer Johnson leaned closer to read the comments. One person had written, "That pool looks amazing. How much does it cost to join?" Karen had responded, "Message me privately for details." She's recruiting people, the officer said grimly. This isn't just personal use anymore. Maya pulled up more posts and comments. The evidence painted a clear picture of someone who had been systematically abusing community access and potentially making money from it. We need to check if any of these other people in the comments have been showing up in our security footage, Maya said. They spent the next 20 minutes going through recent footage, cross-referencing it with Karen's social media activity. They found several instances of people Karen had mentioned online appearing in the security videos. Look at this. Maya pointed to footage from the previous weekend. This woman commented on Karen's post asking about pool access. Here she is 3 days later entering with Karen. Officer Johnson was building a comprehensive picture. So we have unauthorized access, potential trespassing by multiple people, misuse of security codes, and possibly running an unauthorized business using community amenities. Maya nodded. And that's just what we can see in the past 3 months. Who knows how long this has been going on? A knock on the office door interrupted them. Karen peeked her head in. Excuse me, how much longer is this going to take? The kids are getting restless. We're almost done, Officer Johnson said. Can you step in here for a moment? Karen entered reluctantly, her eyes darting to the computer screens. When she saw her own Facebook post displayed, her face went pale. I can explain those, she said quickly. I was just excited about having a nice place to swim. Ms. Mitchell, these posts suggest you've been representing yourself as a resident of this community to other people. That's not... I never actually said I lived here. Officer Johnson pointed to one of her posts. This one says, "Love my neighborhood pool." And this comment where you offered to give someone details about access suggests you were providing information about how to use facilities here. Karen shifted uncomfortably. People ask questions. I was just being friendly. Were you charging people for access to this pool? Charging? No. Well, sometimes people would offer to pay for gas money or lunch when we came together, but that's not the same thing as charging. Maya and Officer Johnson exchanged glances. Even Karen's explanations were digging her deeper into trouble. Ma'am, let me be direct. The evidence shows that you've been accessing private property without authorization for months, bringing unauthorized guests, and potentially coordinating access for people who don't live here. This goes way beyond just wanting to take a swim. Karen's confident facade finally cracked completely. Look, I never meant for it to become such a big deal. Brad told me I could use the pool whenever I wanted. When we broke up, I figured the code would stop working eventually, but it didn't. I was going through a hard time and having a nice place to bring my kids. The kids I babysit. It just made things easier. So you knew you weren't supposed to be here? I hoped it would be okay. The pool was hardly ever busy when I came. I wasn't hurting anyone. Officer Johnson looked at Maya. What's the normal procedure for this kind of situation? Maya had never dealt with anything like this before. Usually we just change gate codes when someone moves out. We've never had someone use the facilities for months without authorization. Well, we have multiple violations here. Trespassing, unauthorized use of private facilities, potentially providing unauthorized access to others. Officer Johnson closed his notepad. Ms. Mitchell, I'm going to need you to come with me. Come with you? Like to jail? Karen's voice was getting high and panicky. I need to process this properly. The charges will depend on what else we find and whether the HOA wants to press charges. Karen looked at the children, who had been waiting outside and were now standing in the doorway looking scared. What about the kids? Are they yours? Karen hesitated. They're my friend Jessica's kids. I was supposed to take them to the pool and then to lunch. Does Jessica know where you brought them? Another pause. She knows we went swimming. Officer Johnson pulled out his phone. I'm going to need Jessica's contact information. These children need to be returned to their guardian. As the reality of the situation hit her, Karen started crying. Not the fake tears from earlier, but real ones. This is all such a mess. I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted to give the kids a nice day. Maya felt a mix of sympathy and frustration. She could understand wanting to provide nice experiences for children, but Karen had been essentially stealing those experiences from the people who actually paid for them. Officer, Maya said, I'll need to call an emergency HOA board meeting to discuss how to handle this. We'll need to change all the gate codes and review our security procedures. Good idea. And Ms. Mitchell, you're going to need to understand that this community is private property. You cannot return here without explicit permission from the property owners. Karen nodded miserably. I understand. I'm sorry. I really am. As they prepared to leave the office, Maya couldn't help but wonder how many other communities had dealt with similar situations. Karen had been so bold about it, posting on social media and bringing different people regularly. It made Maya realize how much trust they put in their security systems, and how easy it could be for someone to abuse that trust. The peaceful morning swim felt like it had happened days ago instead of just a few hours. Maya knew this situation was far from over, and she had a feeling the full scope of Karen's activities was bigger than any of them had realized yet. Officer Johnson made the call to Jessica while they all stood in the HOA office. The conversation was awkward and uncomfortable, with Jessica's voice getting louder and more confused as she realized what had happened. She told me they were going to a community pool, Jessica said, her voice crackling through the speakerphone. I thought she meant the public pool downtown. She never said anything about trespassing. Ma'am, can you come pick up your children? They're safe, but this situation needs to be resolved. I'll be right there. And Karen, we are going to have a very serious conversation later. Karen winced as the call ended. The children, Tyler and Bella, had been listening to everything and they looked mortified. Tyler kept looking at his shoes while Bella seemed angry. Karen, you told my mom you had permission to be here, Bella said accusingly. You said you knew the owners. I thought it would be okay, Karen mumbled. Officer Johnson turned to Maya. While we're waiting for the children's mother, can you show me more of that security footage? I want to get a complete picture of how often this has been happening. Maya pulled up the footage from the past month. As they watched, it became clear that Karen's visits followed a very specific pattern. She almost always came on weekdays when most residents would be at work, and she varied her timing to avoid the same schedule twice in a row. Look at this, Maya pointed to the screen. Last Tuesday she came at 9 a.m., Thursday it was 11. The following Tuesday, 7:30. She's been deliberately avoiding patterns that might get her noticed. That shows intent, Officer Johnson noted. This wasn't just casual use. She was actively trying to avoid detection. They continued reviewing footage, and Maya started recognizing some of the faces that appeared with Karen. Officer, I think I know who some of these other people are. How so? Maya pulled up the community's social media page again. Several of these people have been commenting on neighborhood posts, asking about moving to the area or inquiring about amenities. I thought they were potential buyers, but now I'm wondering if Karen was recruiting them. She showed him a post from 2 weeks earlier where someone had asked about the pool facilities. Karen had responded publicly saying the pool was excellent and very accessible, and then several people had liked and commented on her response. Here, Maya clicked on another post. This woman asked about fitness amenities. Karen told her to message for details about pool access. And look, here she is in our security footage 3 days later. Officer Johnson studied the evidence. This is looking more and more like an organized operation. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message from the HOA president, who was asking for updates. My board wants to know what's happening. Should I tell them we'll be pressing charges? That's up to the HOA, but I'd recommend it. This isn't just a misunderstanding anymore. There's clear evidence of systematic abuse of private property. Karen overheard this and panicked. Press charges for what? I never hurt anyone or broke anything. Ma'am, you've been trespassing for months, brought unauthorized guests onto private property, and appear to have been coordinating access for people who don't live here. Those are serious violations, but I didn't know it was that serious. I thought communities like this were more flexible about rules. Maya shook her head. Show rules exist for a reason. We have insurance requirements, safety regulations, and capacity limits. When unauthorized people use the facilities, it creates liability issues for everyone who actually lives here. Officer Johnson pulled up Karen's driver's license information on his tablet. Ms. Mitchell, I'm seeing that you have a previous citation for trespassing at another community pool about 18 months ago. Karen's face went red. That was completely different. That was a misunderstanding too. What happened there? I was visiting a friend and I thought I could use their pool when they weren't home. But they had given me a key to check on their plants, so I thought it was okay. Maya and Officer Johnson exchanged glances. This was clearly not Karen's first time misunderstanding property access rules. And before that, the officer continued, reading from his screen. There's a warning from Millbrook Gardens community about unauthorized use of their fitness center. How many communities have you done this at? Maya asked, incredulous. Karen looked like she wanted to disappear. It's not like it sounds. I move around a lot for work and sometimes I stay in areas where I don't have access to nice amenities. I just wanted to be able to exercise and swim. So you decided to steal access instead of paying for a gym membership? It's not stealing. These places have pools sitting empty most of the time anyway. Officer Johnson closed his tablet. Ma'am, that's exactly what stealing is. You're taking something that doesn't belong to you without permission. A car pulled into the parking lot and through the window they could see a woman getting out and walking quickly toward the office. Jessica arrived looking frazzled and upset. Where are my kids? She demanded as she burst through the door. Tyler and Bella ran to her and she hugged them both tightly. Are you okay? What happened? Bella spoke up first. Mom, Karen lied to us. She said she lived here and had permission to use the pool, but she doesn't. We've been trespassing. Jessica looked at Karen with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Are you kidding me right now? I trusted you with my children and you took them somewhere you weren't supposed to be. Jessica, I can explain. No, you can't explain this. You put my kids at risk. What if something had happened? What if they'd gotten hurt? And the community's insurance wouldn't cover it because you weren't supposed to be here. Officer Johnson stepped in. Ma'am, your children are fine, but Ms. Mitchell is facing some serious charges here. Jessica gathered her kids closer. Come on, we're leaving. Karen, don't ever call me again. As Jessica and the children left, Karen seemed to deflate completely. With them gone, the full reality of her situation became clear. Officer, what happens now? She asked quietly. Now I need to take you in for processing. The charges will likely include criminal trespassing, and depending on what else we find, possibly fraud if you were taking money from people for access. I wasn't really taking money, Karen protested weakly. People sometimes offered to pay for gas or lunch. Ma'am, any exchange of money or goods for access to private property that you don't have permission to share constitutes fraud. Maya looked at all the evidence they'd gathered. Officer, should I be concerned about other communities in the area? If she's done this before, other HOAs might want to know. I'll be contacting other local communities as part of the investigation. This appears to be a pattern of behavior. Officer Johnson turned back to Karen. Ms. Mitchell, I need you to understand how serious this is. You've been essentially running an unauthorized business using someone else's property. You've put children at risk by bringing them to places you had no legal right to be. And you've been doing this repeatedly at multiple locations. Karen started crying again. I never thought about it like that. I just wanted to have nice things for once. My apartment complex doesn't have a pool, and gym memberships are expensive. Maya felt a moment of sympathy, but then remembered all the legitimate residents who paid HOA fees specifically for access to these amenities. Karen, everyone who lives here works hard to afford these facilities. You can't just take what other people pay for. I know, Karen said through her tears. I know I messed up. I just kept thinking I'd figure out how to make it right eventually. Officer Johnson checked his watch. We need to go. Maya, the HOA will need to file a formal complaint for the charges to stick. Talk to your board and let me know what they decide. As they prepared to leave, Maya's phone rang. It was the HOA president, David Chen, Mr. Chen from Unit 31. the unit Karen had initially claimed to live in. Maya, my wife, just called me from Seattle. She said a police officer contacted her about our unit. What's going on? Maya briefly explained the situation while Officer Johnson finished his paperwork. So this woman has been using our community pool for months without permission? David asked. And she told the police she lived in our house? That's right. And it looks like she's been bringing other people too. This is exactly why we need better security. Maya, I want to call an emergency board meeting for tonight. We need to decide how to handle this and make sure it doesn't happen again. I agree. And David, we're going to need to change all the gate codes immediately. Already on it. I'm calling the security company now. As Officer Johnson led Karen out to his patrol car, she turned back to Maya. I really am sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. Maya watched them drive away, still trying to process everything that had happened. What had started as a simple explanation about pool maintenance had uncovered months of systematic trespassing and potentially fraud. She pulled out her phone to start calling other board members. This was going to be a very long day, and she had a feeling the full scope of Karen's activities was still being revealed. The emergency HOA board meeting that evening was the most well-attended one in Maya's 3 years on the committee. Word had spread quickly through the community about the morning's events, and residents were concerned about security and what other unauthorized activities might have been happening. David Chen joined the meeting via video call from Seattle, and the other 4 board members gathered in the community room. About 20 residents showed up, which was triple their normal attendance. Before we start, Maya announced, I want everyone to know that the security company has already changed all gate codes. New codes will be distributed to residents tomorrow. A hand shot up from the audience. Maya, how long was this woman using our facilities? Maya pulled out the security report she'd compiled with Officer Johnson. Based on the footage we reviewed, at least 3 months of regular use, possibly longer. And she was bringing other people? Yes. We identified at least 12 different individuals who entered with her during that time period. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. Mrs. Patterson from Unit 8 stood up. What about liability? If someone had gotten hurt while they were here illegally, could we have been sued? Board member Tom Williams, who worked in insurance, answered that one. Potentially, yes. Our insurance covers residents and authorized guests, but unauthorized users create a gray area that could have exposed us to significant liability. So what happened to her? Asked Janet from Unit 15. Maya updated the group on the charges being filed. Officer Johnson arrested her for criminal trespassing, unauthorized use of private property, and they're investigating potential fraud charges related to the money she appears to have collected from some of the people she brought. David's voice came through the speaker clearly from Seattle. The police contacted other communities in the area this afternoon. Apparently Karen has been doing this at 3 other locations over the past 2 years. 3 other places? Someone called out. Yes. Meadowbrook Gardens, Riverside Commons, and Pine Valley Estates. She had the same pattern at each place. Find an unused access code, avoid peak hours, and gradually expand to bringing paying guests. Maya continued the story. Officer Johnson told me that her scheme at Pine Valley was much more elaborate. She was advertising on social media as a community pool, consultant and charging people $50 per day, passes to use pools at upscale communities. The room fell silent as residents absorbed this information. $50? Mrs. Chen's neighbor, Bob Martinez, shook his head. She was making serious money off this. Tom Williams leaned forward. Did we find any evidence that she was charging people to use our pool? Maya nodded grimly. The police are still investigating, but they found Venmo and Cash App transactions on her phone that coincide with dates when she brought guests here. It looks like she was charging between $20 and $30 per person. That's outrageous, Janet said. We pay our HOA fees specifically for exclusive access to these amenities. Board Treasurer Linda Foster raised her hand. I've been thinking about this all day. If she brought 12 people over 3 months and charged even $20 each time, that's potentially hundreds of dollars she made using our property. Maya consulted her notes. Actually, it's worse than that. She didn't bring each person just once. Some of the people in the security footage appear multiple times. One woman shows up in footage 8 different times over 6 weeks. So she had regular customers, David said over the video call. This was definitely a business operation. The discussion turned to what changes needed to be made to prevent similar situations in the future. First, Maya said, we need a better system for deactivating codes when residents move out. The fact that Brad Patterson's code was still active 6 months after he left is unacceptable. Tom Williams nodded. I'll work with the property management company to set up automatic code. Deactivation 30 days after a move-out. Notices filed. We also need better monitoring of the security footage, suggested Bob Martinez. Maybe a weekly review to catch patterns like this earlier. Maya agreed. I'll take that on as part of my committee duties. If I'd been reviewing footage regularly, I would have noticed the same person entering multiple times without being a resident. What about the social media aspect? Asked Janet. She was posting about our community and using those posts to recruit customers. Linda Foster had an idea. We should set up Google alerts for mentions of our community name online. That way we'll know if anyone is posting about us inappropriately. David's voice came through the speaker again. I've been thinking about this from a legal perspective. We should send a cease and desist letter to make sure she doesn't try to come back or continue advertising access to our community. Good idea, Maya said. I'll draft something for the board to review. Mrs. Patterson raised another concern. What about the other communities she scammed? Should we warn other HOAs in the area? Tom Williams had already thought of that. Officer Johnson said the police department is creating a bulletin to send to all homeowner associations and apartment complexes in the county. They want to make sure this doesn't happen elsewhere. The meeting continued for another hour, as residents shared ideas for improving security and preventing similar incidents. By the end, they had developed a comprehensive plan. Maya summarized the action items. New gate codes distributed tomorrow, weekly security footage reviews, automatic code deactivation system, online monitoring for unauthorized promotion of our community, and a legal letter prohibiting Karen from returning to the property. 3 weeks later, Maya received a call from Officer Johnson with an update. Maya, I thought you'd want to know how Karen's case turned out. I definitely do. What happened? She pled guilty to all charges. The judge sentenced her to 6 months in jail, 2 years probation, and she has to pay restitution to all 4 communities she scammed. How much restitution? For your community, it's calculated based on the value of the amenities she used illegally, plus damages for the security upgrades you had to implement. It comes to about $3,000. Maya was surprised. That much? Pool maintenance, insurance costs, security monitoring, and the value of exclusive access that she sold to unauthorized users. It adds up quickly. What about the other communities? Her total restitution across all 4 communities is over $12,000. Plus, she's banned from entering any private residential community in the county without explicit written permission from the property owners. Maya felt a sense of closure. Officer, can I ask you something? In your experience, how common is this kind of thing? More common than you'd think, unfortunately. Social media has made it easier for people to promote and monetize access to private amenities. We've had cases involving private gyms, pools, tennis courts, even dog parks. Any advice for other communities? Regular security reviews like you're doing now. Quick deactivation of access codes when people move out. And trust your instincts. If something seems off, investigate it. After hanging up, Maya walked out to the pool area. It was a beautiful afternoon, and several residents were enjoying the facilities they actually paid for. The new security measures were working well, and the community felt more secure. Mrs. Patterson was sitting by the pool reading a book. She looked up when Maya approached. Maya, I've been meaning to thank you for how you handled that whole situation with that woman. I was just doing my job. No, you were protecting our community. If you hadn't been so thorough and insisted on following the rules, she might have continued taking advantage of us for months longer. Maya smiled. It's funny how it all started just because I was trying to explain the maintenance schedule. Well, I'm glad you stuck to your guns, and I'm glad we have people like you looking out for the rest of us. As Maya headed home, she reflected on how much the incident had changed the community's approach to security. They were more vigilant now, but also more connected as neighbors. The emergency meeting had brought residents together in a way that regular board meetings never did. Her phone buzzed with a text from David Chen. Maya, my wife and I wanted you to know how much we appreciate what you did. When we heard that woman was claiming to live in our house, we were so grateful that you knew us well enough to recognize the lie immediately. Maya texted back, That's what neighbors are for. The whole experience had reinforced something Maya already knew, but sometimes forgot in the day-to-day routine of committee work. The rules and procedures they followed weren't just bureaucracy for its own sake. They were there to protect the community they'd all invested in and to ensure that everyone who belonged there could enjoy what they'd worked hard to afford. Karen's attempts to take shortcuts and help herself to what others had earned had ultimately backfired completely. Not only had she faced serious legal consequences, but she'd also lost the trust of friends like Jessica and created a cautionary tale that would help protect other communities from similar schemes. As Maya unlocked her front door, she could hear the sounds of children playing in the pool behind her, children who belonged there, brought by parents who had every right to use the facilities. It was exactly the way it should be.